Open University.
Class, I've just come back from Amagasaki and I found a new sweater with which I am well pleased, as the Lord saith. I really like these chevrons, 70s Frank Stella style chevrons, and I particularly like the way the garment carries the design across into the arm. So today has been a good day. The sun is shining slightly. I got not just one sweater but two. And they're both very similar. They have these very wide V's at the front and the back, and they both have these downward chevron designs which carry across into the sleeves. So there's something wild and free, don't you find, about that? I mean, it looks a little bit like a 1970s, those Penguin collections of plays, the Penguin theatre collections. I don't know if you know the ones I mean. I've been looking at old videos or new videos rather, of people's collections of Penguin classics and Penguin modern classics and things like that. And they're all recent classics, in other words, not classic at all. Nobody seems to collect the Farrell, Bentley, Burnett period or the Germano Fascetti period of the late 60s, early 70s. There's stuff that I'm interested in collecting. Anyway, I wasn't looking for books today. I was actually videoing as I went on the train and as I went walking through my favorite mall, which is I think it's called the Chuo Mall in Amagasaki. And my usual second-hand shop wasn't actually there. It wasn't open today. I think the Mix, it's called. I think it might be even closing down or something. I don't know. That would be tragic. There was a little notice in Japanese on the front. But there are several places. There's a few sort of tables where you can rummage and get stuff very cheaply. And some weird side arcades to the mall where they have 100 yen rails. But these were from a place I used to go to. That was the very first place that interested me in that arcade, which is called the Emerald Famille. It seems to be run by Koreans, so I suspect that this very particular sweater design, with the way the sleeves have this baggy hanging quality here, almost like traditional Asian hanging sleeves, maybe a Korean sweater design. Back to sweaters, we've come full circle. All these very erudite talks about pop music and communism, and we're back to talking about sweaters. I'm going to have to stop doing these videos soon, or at least in this form, because I'm judging a literary prize, a Spanish literary prize. Believe it or not, I'm one of the literary judges. Adam Phillips says when he becomes official, a man loses all his freedoms. So I'm a little bit in danger of becoming official, not just because I'm about to embark on a European tour and become the official Momus and the unofficial David Bowie, which is okay, that I don't mind, but also because I'm doing some work for Haus der Kultur in der Welt. I've joined their steering committee, thematic steering committee. I don't know what it's technically called, but it's some kind of deal whereby you sit around. You have annual meetings. I think it's a 4-year term I've signed up for, but I didn't even realize. I thought it was like a one-off thing. But in May I'll be sitting for 3-4 days with them talking about their future directions, which is nice because I've never had an official position before. I think in many ways I'm very childlike and impulsive and an artist, and but also quite, as these videos prove, I'm sort of quite academic and self-organizing, self-managing. Imagine me being given a TV series like this to make for a real broadcasting organization. It just wouldn't happen, would it? I have to be self-starting and self-organizing to make these things happen for you guys, to make my records happen, to make these broadcasts happen. They're not things that would happen of their own course, or for commercial reasons, or even for kind of, awards and prizes and bursaries and residencies and all that kind of stuff. generally I've been left out of as well. I've never had a prize. I was shortlisted, one of my books was shortlisted for the Scottish Arts Council's first book prize, but a piece of sicklit beat it to the prize, and I was in the Whitney Biennial, which is going on right now again, 11 years after I was in it. It's meant to be another political year this year, and there's been some protests about one particular painting which shows the open casket of a black victim of police violence, and people saying that because this was Dana Schutz painted it, she's a Jewish and white painter. You know, the usual identity politics which pass, even, I can't believe, even in the age of Trump, people are standing in front of that painting protesting that somehow, despite the fact that the victim's mother chose to have the open casket so that people would see what she had to see, her dead son. Nevertheless, once it becomes a painting and gets put in the Whitney, it's described as being for fun and profit, and therefore an exploitation by white people of a black tragedy. I don't really see the logic there, but it's a kind of identity politics logic, I guess, that you're only allowed to speak. You can't speak on behalf of someone else. You have to be situated. You have to, all this stuff. Anyway, so yes, how did I get onto that? I was in Amagasaki. Amagasaki, one of the poorest areas, and I suppose, again, you could say, wow, you privileged white person walking to get these cheap bargains through a poor area where there's a lot of immigrants and poor people, and you're picking up their clothes and you're turning them into fashion statements. In fact, they're the result of poverty, and this was made in a sweatshop and all the rest of it. I have very little sympathy, as you've probably gathered by now, with these kind of arguments. You know, check your privilege type arguments. Much more in favour of simple economistic Marxist arguments about class and resistance to power in general, and a broad alliance of all the left and all the oddball kind of, you know, schismatic, self-identified gender studies, whatever. Everybody should be in a huge alliance, especially right now, against Theresa May, Donald Trump, and these awful people. And not just those, you know, also people like Erdogan in Turkey. About to go back to Europe and be official and be unfree, but also have a lot of free time, taking an Airbnb place in Berlin for most of April. And what am I talking about? Gosh, I've got no topic today. I've also come full circle in that I've gone back to speaking about nothing. I should probably get on with judging this literary prize. You know, I have to read, by the end of the month, I have to have read like 15 novels or something. Luckily, it's a pre-selected creme de la creme. I think there were 400 entries initially, and it's narrowed down to that. A lot of these official positions are unpaid, and I'm sort of getting lured into this sort of, will you do this for travel expenses? Will you do this for, you know, a small fee or no fee at all? Yeah, so it's a kind of the worst of both worlds in the sense that you give up your time for these organizations, but at the same time you are not particularly recompensed. It's just meant to be honorific or something. It's a bit like internships and things. These arts organizations are having their budgets cut, but they want to continue zombie-like. They want to keep... Probably not say that about HKW. HKW does some great work, and I'm very much in favour of it. And I like that they have, you know, publishing offshoots and things like that, a radio station, and also that they have a radical agenda. So I'm kind of on the same page as them. Fiction, the imprint which put out 2 of my novellas, was directly financed by HKW in Berlin. And God knows I'm politically way, way closer to them than anything going on in Britain, including the things like the ICA, whatever in Britain. Because it's a house of world cultures, and therefore it's a part of a multicultural global worldview, much more than anything in Britain is these days. I'm just showing off my sweater. That's all I'm doing today. I'm wearing my spectacles upside down, just to show off and to make a video and sort of explain why there will be fewer videos. I might make some travel type videos, spending most of May in, this is privilege porn, and somebody commented in one of the early, the sex video, actually, the paraphilia video, somebody said, "Mum, this is privilege porn." I had to look it up. I didn't know what privilege porn was. Apparently it's when you flaunt your privilege in front of other people, the way one would flaunt one's naked body if one had a great naked body. And perhaps it is. Perhaps I haven't suffered enough in my sexual life to have spoken about my sexual life. I mean, I think I paid my dues. I think I did suffer, actually. But maybe this is also privilege porn because I have my 2 months traveling. But, this is the way I've organized my life. I'm not a big pop star. I'm a survivor. I'm sort of doing it long term, but for very little recompense. But I do get some freedom, and I do get to travel and hang out with interesting people. So I'll be doing that from April 6th, flying out of Japan, April 6th, and coming back in the middle of June. And I have a concert in Osaka when I come back sometime in July at the club which had the 4AD night last night. And also many concerts in Europe. So if you're anywhere where I'm playing, Berlin, I'm doing these Open University events are spinning off into live events, which is quite exciting. For the first time, I'll actually be doing this kind of talking event in Berlin on, I think, the April. I checked imums.com. It's like the second week of April at a place called O Tannenbaum on Hermannstrasse, which it's been in 3 places. I remember O Tannenbaum. I think it was Dutch people, partly Dutch people, who set it up. It was on one of the streets off the Cottbusser Dam when I lived just on the Zelderstrasse, which was also off the Cottbusser Dam in Neukölln the last decade. And then it moved on to Sonnenallee, and now it's moved a little even further south onto Hermannstrasse. So I'll be doing a talk there, and it's kind of, come as you are, pay as you go. I think it's like 6-8 euros, something like that. Pay what you want, basically, kind of deal. Talking in public. Can I get paid for talking in public? Well, we're sort of passing around a cup and seeing how much is left in the cup at the end of the evening. That's what I'll be paid. But then there's a proper gig as well. 2 days after that, on the Sunday, I think that's the Friday, and then on the Sunday, I can't remember the dates, playing at the Rote Salon in the Volksbühne, which is again one of these fantastic Berlin institutions which I really feel at home in, built by a workers' association who wanted to put on theatre for the workers in the 1920s. It's a fantastic building with a sort of secret cafe at the back and a bar for the all dark wood and everything. No tourists ever go in there. Nobody knows how to get in because it's terribly labyrinthine at the back. But the Rote Salon and the Grünes Salon on either side of the Volksbühne are these sort of peripheral theatres where they have music events. So I've played both of them. This time it's the red one, the Rote Salon. And lots of red plush and chandeliers and a really nice atmosphere, projected videos. I'll be singing my jolly interesting songs, and please come along. It's quite expensive. I think the tickets are actually priced quite high this time, but still worth every euro cent. And I do hope to see you there, and I hope to see you in London at Café Otto, which I think still has some tickets left. Café Otto it's coming pretty soon. God, yeah, it's looming. It's the 10th, I think, of April. We're really getting up there, really getting into this. How exciting. I'm getting back to be a public artist performing on the public stages of the world. Well, not the world, not America. I think I have to embargo Trump's America, sorry. I've been embargoing anybody's, Obama's America for that matter, because there's so much hassle. Now you can't even take your laptop. I mean, I perform with my laptop. Okay, I'm not from one of the banned countries, but still, what if I were transferring through Dubai? I wouldn't be able to go to America with my laptop and play my shows. I'd have to play in an acoustic guitar, which some people would say would be a jolly good thing. I also have a talking event about the unconscious in the Swiss Institute in Rome, which is a very glamorous thing to do, at the invitation of Edgars Gluhovs, who's an artist who's currently doing a residency at the Swiss Institute in Rome. I think he's from the Baltic Republics. That specific. I think he's from Lithuania, Edgars. Am I right? Anyway, he's invited me to. They're having a sort of colloquium about the unconscious or something, Freudian topics. So I'll be pleased to talk about that. I love talking about that kind of thing. And I'm also playing at Avellino at a club called Godot, Avellino, last time I played there, that was actually really good. I went to the apartment of the guy who runs the Godot Club, and he has this, you're sort of overlooking mountains there. You're up in the hills above Naples, and you're not that far from Herculaneum and Pompeii. And this guy, he has the most fantastic library in his flat. His flat is overlooking the main pedestrian street in Avellino. They've got a beautiful prospects of the mountains. It's a lovely little town. And his flat, which I stayed in last time, the atmosphere there was amazing. I love going to people's houses and especially seeing their old paperbacks. I think I took a lot of photographs of his paperbacks because he had such a great selection of books when I visited him. How are we doing for time, by the way? I think it's actually, having had nothing to say, has actually lasted 15 minutes so far. So let's do another few minutes. And I have then a kind of unstructured time in Italy for a couple of weeks, because I want to go to the Venice Biennale sometime either before or after the Rome and Avellino dates. So I'm not entirely sure where I'll be in Italy. One thing I've always wanted to do is go to the... if you've ever seen Dear Diary, Caro Diario, by Roberto Benigni. He's sort of like the Italian Woody Allen. I guess that's what he's known as. He's a comedian and a filmmaker with a quirky persona. And he made this film called Dear Diary, I guess at the end of the 80s or early 90s, in which he's sort of riding about, and he's a guy on a scooter in Rome, and then he takes this... He's trying to get diagnoses for the doctor. He's got itchy legs or something, and all the doctors tell him different things about it, and it turns out to be quite a serious cancer. One doctor just says, wear woolen socks, and another says, put on this cream, and eventually it turns out he's got this skin cancer of some kind. But he goes on a voyage down to Alicudi and Stromboli and all these islands which are very way south of the heel of Italy, and they're volcanic islands, and they get increasingly barren and dramatic as you go south. So you can take a ferry from one to the other. Alicudi has no cars, just donkeys, basically. I think the artist Martin Creed used to have a house there, and he would just fly back and forth to London when he had to do work in the art world. Wow, watching a police barge arriving in the customs harbour. They have a customs area down there. So as I'm looking out at the glittering water of the Osaka Bay here, I'm imagining this voyage I might be taking to Stromboli. Stromboli itself is like just a black hulk which looms up out of the Aegean Sea, and is still a very active volcano. So I guess there could be lava and smoke and stuff raining down from it. I hope so. So it's all to play for. It's all coming up. It's going to be an exciting spring. Thank God spring is finally arriving. We've got flowers shooting out in that sexual way that buds have, looking for the early insects, trying to attract with their pollen, the early hatching insects. And it's going to be another summer, another year on Earth. How fantastic.
Open University.